The divisive and aggressive BLM movement has increased its influence considerably over the past 2 years, and yet there is a great deal of ignorance about this group's ideological framework. They are not only race obsessed, but they are Marxist. Just ask the founders about their ideology.
We actually do have an ideological frame. Myself and Alicia in particular are trained organizers. We are trained Marxists.
I'm now joined by Dr. Rakib Ehsan, Research Fellow at Henry Jackson Society, who wrote a fantastic piece for the Mail on BLM. Rakib, you have warned about the danger of adopting the US's racial grievance politics. Has BLM influenced how the UK approaches matters of economic equality and social cohesion?
Well, I'd say so, Rita. I always feel that there's been a brainless importation of divisive US racial culture war politics into the UK by British leftist activists who don't really understand the fundamental differences between the UK and US when it comes to race-related matters. Rita, I just want to remind your viewers of one particular incident in the UK where you had British protesters shouting, "Don't shoot," at British police officers, even though the vast majority are unarmed and support that, and they support that model of policing. So I think the reality of the matter that the UK, when you talk more broadly about the Western world, it is a highly performing country when it comes to the provision of anti-discrimination protections on the grounds of race, ethnicity, and religion. Now, of course, it's very important to have debates in terms of how do you create a more meritocratic society, how do you boost equality of opportunity. But I do feel that what we're seeing in the UK, and I think this is largely because of the importation of US racial grievances, you're seeing racial identity placed at the heart of very important discussions on complex forms of economic and social disadvantage, when a myriad of social, cultural factors come into play when you look at those racial and ethnic disparities.
Oh, well, absolutely. You see them parroting the same words and phrases. It's almost like they take lessons in critical race theory. Now, we know BLM's focus extends beyond race. They have stated objectives. They're at least honest about it. They want to overthrow the capitalist system and defund the police, and yet they're backed so heavily by not only leftist politicians, but the corporate world who've embraced this divisive identity politics. Why do you think that is, and what's been the impact of that?
Well, I think there, Rita, what you see there, there's a great deal of hypocrisy within the BLM social movement. You have activists and previous former leading members who have talked about being trained Marxists, that we need to dismantle the market economies across the West. But these are also individuals that have also profited a great deal when it comes to the shameless commercialization of grievance politics. They themselves have developed lavish property empires of their own. And I find it remarkable that you also have these individuals who promote various forms of public disorder, expressing support for direct action. And they do peddle anti-police narratives, such as stripping police forces of public resources. But they live in extremely secure and luxurious neighborhoods, which I think is quite remarkable that if there was any disruption in those neighborhoods, I'm sure they would be the first people to call upon law enforcement to sort out any disturbances in their own areas. So what you see there, there's a real hypocrisy within these social movements, and that does include BLM. And those sort of radical objectives, whether it comes to dismantling the market economy, defunding the police, support for direct action, when you look at survey data in the UK, this doesn't only command very little support in the wider public, it commands very little support within Black British communities, and that really needs to be understood by our leading politicians.
That's a very important point, that majority of the black population doesn't back these policies like defunding the police and overthrowing capitalism, and that point seems to be lost by people who just blindly follow BLM. Now, do you think Britain will ultimately succeed in rejecting this sort of divisive race politics, or is it too late already? Has the critical race theory poison and identity politics obsession already ingrained itself in the country?
Well, I think what's been really problematic in the UK, you've seen the spread of white privilege theories within our public institutions, remarkably, even within the National Health Service and our school system. Now, the Conservative government, members of the cabinet, such as Education Secretary Nadhim Zahawi, they are looking to push back on that peddling of pseudo-intellectual race theories, you could say, within our public institutions. But a lot more has to be done. I think that the government itself really needs to press with an agenda which is rooted in equality of opportunity, but also pushes back with this sort of race-based obsessions when we're looking at economic and educational inequalities in the UK. Rita, I'm firmly of the view that one of the strongest determinants when it comes to the shaping of one's life chances is the kind of family that they're raised in. So family structure.
Absolutely. Family is critically important, Doctor, and always so great to hear from you. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Rita.